Hi, we're here to talk about online gaming with agony aunt Susie Hayman.
Hello Sharon.
Hi.
Hi.
Susie, a lot of parents contact our parent line very concerned about their children's use of online games, and I wondered if you could tell us something about how you would advise them to prevent inappropriate use of the computer and the internet.
It can be very difficult because if you're trying to put the parental controls on, which are an excellent idea, and I think every parent should learn how to do this and put them on. Actually, computers ought to come with it as a default, but they aren't at the moment. They may change, that may change.
Yes.
But you do ask, when you buy a computer, how do you do this? But be aware of the fact that kids know a lot more about computers than you do, and they're liable to find ways around it.
Yes.
So perhaps a much better way of doing it is actually talking with your kids about what you expect from them in their use of computers.
Yes.
So in other words, what you don't want them looking at, the fact that you don't want them to clear history, so you can always go back and see what they've been looking at. And that should be an absolute no-no, that they mustn't clear the history when they've been on. But I think also it's really important to have computers in the shared public rooms of the house. And it's very tempting to give kids their own computers, and have them in their bedroom. Gives you peace and quiet, they can go off and do their homework, and they can watch things. Doesn't mean, of course, that they can be up until midnight or all hours of the early morning watching what they want, and you don't know what they're doing. And it also means it separates them from the family.
Yes.
So I would say, however difficult it may feel, and however much they may object at first, it's quite important in a family to say, computers are in the public rooms, they're in the living room, they're in the kitchen, and that's where they stay. Even if you have several children with their own computers, that's where they are. And that there is an understanding that you can wander around, and you can peer over their shoulders and say, oh, what's that? Tell me about it. Obviously, you need to give them some privacy and respect for their private chats with their friends, but there's an understanding there. That if I'm doing something that I don't want you to see, well, I shouldn't be doing it.
Yes.
Needs to be talked about, and if you can then see if they're getting stuck into something for too long and getting too addicted to it. Actually.
Even if the computer is in the shared area, what advice would you give to parents who feel that their children are not sticking to the restrictions that they've set down?
Rules are very important, and I think it's very clear for young people to recognise this within the family, that there are concerns you have and why you have those concerns. The best way to do that, of course, is to make it a conversation. And make it something that you do together. So you sit down with the whole of the family and say, okay, what are going to be the rules that we apply to this? Yeah. Interesting thing is, if you have younger and older children, actually you can very quickly get older children to recognise the necessity and the need for this, because they can be very protective of their younger siblings.
Yeah.
And then see that maybe these rules have to apply to everybody. So it's about explaining to them what you're concerned about, listening to what they're concerned about, mixing it all up together and coming up with a set of rules that everybody in that house actually has to keep to.
And if parents want to know what sort of controls are effective, obviously you've said that talking is one of the most effective ones of all.
Absolutely.
But what else would you advise?
I certainly think that, if you set a boundary, you should keep to it. So if you're actually saying to your kids, okay, you're allowed so many hours a day or a week on the computer, you can do certain things, that there should be sanctions. And I know it's really hard. When you're a parent, you want your kids to love you. The horrible thing is to have those kids say, I hate you. And you don't want that to happen. And often we give in a bit too much. We want to be friends with them, rather than recognising, tough, you're a parent.
Yes,
Being a parent sometimes has to be, you have to be unpopular.
Yes.
And to put your foot down and say, no, this far and no further. And that's the way it goes. And that does mean maybe sometimes, you're not allowed to use the computer for a period. But talking about it is really important, because the reality is that if you put a bar on it, they may go off just and see their friends and get on the computer with their friends. So it's about talking to them about what you're concerned about, why you're concerned, how this should be, and making it a two-way conversation, so they're buying in, they're understanding what the necessity is, and then they're understanding it, and then they make it the rules.
Yes, I think following on from that point, a big concern from a lot of parents is that their children are playing these role-playing games, and that is a concern that is changing children's behaviour.
Absolutely. So they are very powerful, these things. In my day, perhaps it was Dungeons and Dragons, and it's just on a board.
Yeah.
Now you are on a screen.
You're all-round experience.
You're inhabiting it. You are that person. Incredibly satisfying. That you've got all these challenges that you're overcoming, and you keep getting that wonderful hit as a goal to overcome, and you get it. You overcome a difficulty, and you get that, wow, aren't I fantastic, I'm a winner, and you keep getting that. That is very addictive. And it's very easy to see why young people can get drawn into this. And that, I think, is why it is so important for parents to be able to understand what these role-playing games are all about, see how exciting and wonderful they are, but make the rules with their children about how often they can go and play them, how long they will be doing it, who they'll be playing with, all those sorts of things, so that you limit it to something that's wonderful and exciting, but doesn't become addictive.
Sure. And if they want advice on setting those rules, they can come to Parent Line
Ring
Plus?
Parent Line Plus. Come to the website, we have masses of information here. We have opportunities to have live chat with trained advisors.
Yes.
We have opportunities to talk to other parents on the web boards. We have the opportunity to ring us on the helpline. And, this is the place to be, as it were. Lots of help here to help you work out what works for you with you and your children in a way that makes it, as I said, a discussion rather than an argument.
That's great. Thanks very much, Susie.